In the ocean, there is a very simple rule. If you can see it, you might survive it. But what if you can't? What if the most dangerous predator is the one your eyes were never designed to detect? Because somewhere beneath the surface, in waters that look calm, empty, almost peaceful, there are creatures that are almost completely invisible. No warning. No shadow. No time to react. And if you encounter one, you may not even realize it, until it's already too late. Meet the ocean's most invisible predators. Not sharks. Not giant squids. Not anything you'd expect. Instead, we're talking about creatures made of transparency itself. Organisms so clear, they vanish into the water like ghosts. Some drift. Some hunt. Some wait. And all of them share one terrifying advantage: they are nearly impossible to see. But this is where things get strange. Because invisibility in the ocean isn't just a trick. It's a survival strategy perfected over millions of years. In the open ocean, what scientists call the pelagic zone, there is nowhere to hide. No rocks. No coral. No shadows. Just endless blue. So evolution came up with a radical solution. If you can't hide behind something, become nothing. To understand how this works, you need to think about light. When sunlight enters the ocean, it scatters in every direction. That's why the water looks blue. Most animals reflect or absorb this light, which makes them visible. But transparent predators, they do neither. Their bodies are built to let light pass through them, almost perfectly. It's like trying to see a clean glass window underwater. From a distance, it simply disappears. One of the most famous examples: the glass squid. A creature so transparent, you can see straight through its body. Its organs float inside like suspended machinery. Its eyes are often the only visible feature. Everything else? Practically gone. And then there are the comb jellies. Delicate. Shimmering. Alien. At first glance, they look harmless. Almost beautiful. But don't let that fool you. These creatures are efficient predators. They use rows of tiny hair-like structures called cilia to glide silently through the water. No sound. No disturbance. Like a living phantom. And that's the key to their power. Silence. Because in the ocean, movement creates vibrations. And vibrations mean detection. But these predators? They move so gently, they barely disturb the water at all. It's like a submarine that leaves no wake. Now imagine this from the perspective of their prey. You're a small fish. Or a drifting plankton. You rely on sight and subtle water movements to detect danger. But suddenly, there's nothing. No shadow. No ripple. Just open water. And then, you're gone. But the real mystery is deeper than that. Because invisibility isn't perfect. It can't be. Even the most transparent creatures still have cells, tissues, and structures that interact with light. So why don't we see them? The answer lies in biology and physics, working together in a very unusual way. These animals have bodies made mostly of water. In fact, some are over 95% water. That means their internal structure matches the surrounding ocean almost exactly. Light doesn't bend much when passing through them. So there's almost no visual distortion. It's like placing a drop of water into more water. You can't see the boundary. But this creates a problem. Because some parts of the body
can't be transparent. Eyes, for example. They need pigments to detect light. Which means they should be visible. So what do these creatures do? They evolve bizarre solutions. Some have mirrored surfaces in their eyes to reflect light in a way that blends with the ocean. Others position their eyes in ways that minimize visibility from below. And some simply reduce their eyes altogether. Because seeing less is sometimes better than being seen. And that's not even the weirdest part. Because invisibility doesn't just help them hunt. It also protects them from predators. From above and below. In the ocean, danger comes from every direction. Predators often look upward to spot silhouettes against the light. So many animals evolved dark backs to blend with the deep. Others have light-colored bellies to match the bright surface. It's called countershading. A simple trick, but effective. Transparent predators take this idea to the extreme. Instead of blending in, they erase themselves completely. No silhouette. No contrast. Just emptiness. But there's a catch. Because transparency only works in certain conditions. Mainly in the open ocean, where light is scattered evenly. Near the surface, where light is strong and directional, even transparent creatures can cast faint shadows. And in the deep ocean, where light barely exists, invisibility becomes less useful. So these predators live in a very specific zone. A narrow band of water where light levels are just right. Too bright, and they're exposed. Too dark, and they lose their advantage. It's a delicate balance. One that requires constant adaptation. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Because some of these invisible predators don't just rely on transparency. They combine it with something even stranger. Bioluminescence. The ability to produce light. At first, this seems counterintuitive. Why would an invisible predator light itself up? Wouldn't that give away its position? But the real reason is far more surprising. They don't use light to be seen. They use it to remain unseen. In a process called counterillumination, these creatures produce light on their undersides that matches the brightness of the surface above. So when a predator looks up, instead of seeing a dark shape, they see nothing. Perfect camouflage. It's like wearing a cloak made of light. And some species can adjust this glow in real time. Matching changes in sunlight, cloud cover, even the angle of the sun. It's an active invisibility system. More advanced than anything humans have ever built. But invisibility has its limits. Because in the ocean, there are always new ways to see. Some predators don't rely on vision at all. They detect electrical signals, or pressure changes, or chemical traces in the water. And against those senses, transparency offers no protection. So the invisible hunter can also become the hunted. And this creates a strange paradox. The very trait that makes these creatures so powerful also makes them vulnerable. To survive, they must remain perfectly adapted, perfectly balanced, perfectly invisible. But evolution never stops. And in the silent depths of the ocean, the arms race continues. New ways to hide. New ways to detect. New ways to hunt. Because in this world, being invisible isn't just an advantage. It's a necessity. And if you were to encounter one of these predators, face to face, in open water, you might stare directly at it, and never even know. But that raises a disturbing question. If something can hunt without being seen, without being heard, without being detected at all, how many of them are already around you? Right now?
If something can exist, right in front of you, and still remain completely unseen, then how do you ever know you're safe? Because the truth is, you wouldn't. In the open ocean, detection is everything. Survival depends on your ability to sense danger before it reaches you. But invisible predators don't just break this rule. They erase it. Take the larvation. A strange, tadpole-like creature floating silently through the water. At first glance, it seems harmless. Fragile. Almost insignificant. But this is where things get strange. Because the larvation doesn't just drift. It builds. Around its body, it constructs a massive, transparent mucus house. A delicate structure, sometimes up to a meter wide. Completely invisible. Like a giant, floating trap made of glass. Inside this structure are intricate filters. Layers of sticky nets, designed to capture microscopic prey. Plankton. Bacteria. Anything drifting by. And here's the terrifying part. The prey never sees it. There's no warning. No visible barrier. They simply drift, and suddenly, they're stuck. It would be like swimming through open air, and suddenly hitting an invisible spider web. Except this web surrounds you completely. Once clogged, the larvation abandons the structure, and builds a new one. Leaving behind a ghostly trap, slowly sinking into the depths. But that's just the beginning. Because invisibility in the ocean isn't limited to passive hunters. Some of the most effective predators actively chase their prey. Meet the siphonophores. Long, transparent, and deeply misunderstood. They look like a single organism. But they're not. A siphonophore is actually a colony. Thousands of tiny individuals, working together as one. Each specialized. Each dependent. Each invisible. Some species can grow longer than a blue whale. Let that sink in. A predator longer than the largest animal on Earth. And almost completely transparent. Drifting through the darkness. Their tentacles extend like invisible threads. Covered in stinging cells, loaded with venom. And when prey touches them, there's no escape. The sting is instantaneous. Paralyzing. Precise. Like stepping on a live wire you couldn't see. But the real horror is that you would never notice the tentacle until it's already touching you. And humans aren't immune. Certain siphonophores, like the Portuguese man-o'-war, can deliver excruciating stings. Even though they float near the surface. Their tentacles can extend for meters. Nearly invisible in the water. Swimmers have encountered them. Without ever realizing they were there. Until pain suddenly erupts across their skin. But the ocean's invisibility doesn't stop at jelly-like creatures. Some fish have evolved transparency too. The ice fish of Antarctic waters have blood so clear. It lacks hemoglobin entirely. No red color. No visible circulation. This would be impossible for most animals. Hemoglobin carries oxygen. Without it, cells would suffocate. But ice fish live in extremely cold waters, where oxygen dissolves more easily. So they survive, with nearly invisible blood. It's like running a car engine, without fuel lines. And somehow, it still works. But transparency comes at a cost. Because being invisible often means being fragile. Soft bodies. Minimal protection. Little defense against physical damage. So many invisible predators rely on something else: speed. Ambush. Precision. Take the arrow worm. A tiny, transparent hunter, armed with grasping spines. It floats motionless, until prey drifts close. Then, in a fraction of a second, it strikes. Faster than the human eye can follow. Grabbing its victim, and pulling it into its mouth. To the prey. It's like being attacked by nothing. And this is where things become truly unsettling. Because invisibility doesn't just affect individuals. It shapes entire ecosystems. In the open ocean, a huge percentage of life is either transparent, or nearly so. From jellyfish, to larvae, to drifting predators. The water is far from empty. It's crowded. Alive. Watching. But we don't see it. To us, the ocean often looks like a vast, empty blue. But in reality, it's more like a dense fog of living organisms. Many of them, completely invisible. And this has consequences. Because if predators are harder to detect, prey must evolve new strategies. Some develop extreme sensitivity to movement, detecting even the slightest disturbance. Others reproduce rapidly, accepting high losses as part of survival. And some fight invisibility with invisibility. Transparency becomes an arms race.